congratulations on the movie.
Oh, thanks so much.
Tell me about the straight line that I imagine there is between Video Archives and Django Unchained. Because were these films that you watched in the store? You've often said, I didn't go to film school, I went to films.
Oh, yeah. Uh-huh.
And so I think about that when I see this movie.
Well, I would like to say yes to that, but that's not entirely true, because, we didn't have, at a certain point, I was buying a lot of the films, but except for stuff like The Good and the Bad and the Ugly, Fistful of Dollars, and For a Few Dollars More, we didn't have that many of the spaghetti westerns at Video Archives. There were some that were available out there. We had a couple of them, but for the most part, we didn't have that many of them there. So it wasn't like there was this gigantic plethora. No, I've always been enamored with spaghetti westerns from the very, very beginning. I think my mom, when she was very young when she had me, she had a huge crush on Clint Eastwood. So actually, some of my earliest movie memories were going to see the Dollars movies as a little boy. Literally when they came out. 68, 69. So I was very, very young. And then also, but I also remember the Lee Van Cleef spaghetti western Day of Anger. I saw that on the second half of a drive-in double bill, and I've tried to. I cannot remember what the first movie was, which was actually the headliner. I always just remember Day of Anger.
Yeah.
But not only that, also living in Los Angeles, the KHJ Channel 9 out there. At some point in like the mid 70s, around 76, 77, they bought a film package of films that included a whole lot of spaghetti westerns. The Jack Palan's Bud Spencer movie, It Can Be Done, Amigo, Le Grand Duel, a Day of Anger, and a whole bunch of them. And so, anytime I saw spaghetti anytime I saw Western, and then in parentheticals Italian, all right, next to it on television, I always watched them.
And so, at a certain point, though, when you were working and sort of creating Django Unchained, though, you introduced elements of stories about racism, stories about your country's relationship with slavery, feminism, all sorts of things. Tell me a little bit about binding those two together, because the film is wildly entertaining, but it's kind of a message movie as well.
Oh no, very much so. No, it tries to deal. Most of the movies that have dealt with slavery are either kind of historical movies with a capital H, which I question, frankly. I think there is an aspect about it that presents those stories at almost an arm's distance length when you make it, when you do history with a capital H, or history under glass is kind of how I think about it. And then some of the other movies that dealt with slavery, like say Goodbye Uncle Tom or Mandingo, that in some ways actually get more to the heart of what was going on in slavery. Nevertheless, you can't ignore the exploitation that does seem to be part and parcel with part of the reason why they were made. They have that same thing of the tawdry paperbacks that would come out.
Exactly. Very kind of sexualized poster.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Well, it's also kind of being a flip on Gone with the Wind at the same time. But when I came up with the idea for this story, actually, before I even had the story, I had the idea, and I thought a cool spaghetti western idea was the idea of an ex-slave during slavery times, not post-Civil War, an ex-slave who becomes a bounty hunter, and then and goes out looking for white guys who are committing crimes and hiding out as overseers on plantations. And then when I came up with that idea, I couldn't help but ignore the ironic consequences of you have slavery as a business, right, where you're selling human lives for cash, and then there's the bounty hunting laws where you're selling corpses for cash. So as Schultz says, it's a flesh for cash business in both cases, and that was me to be a really interesting dichotomy. But the other thing, though, was the idea of actually in the course of a genre movie, in a western, where you kind of have a sense of where you are because you've seen other westerns before, that we could actually deal with slavery in a way that could be brutal. and could be eye-opening. And it just has, frankly, it's eye-opening because it just hasn't been dealt with that much. Everybody, mostly everybody, intellectually knows what happened there and intellectually knows the pain, but because they've kind of been shielded from it for so long, that it can actually have an effect on people.
How do you expect people will react to it? Because it's visceral.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
I mean, it's funny, it's gritty, it's violent, it's all those things.
Mm-hmm.
But some of the whipping scenes and things are brutal.
Oh no, it's brutal. It's it's going to be interesting. I mean, right now, you can call it a controversial movie, but it's controversial because it's coming out right now, and there's there's a magnifying glass. You wrote a book about the devils,
That's right.
all right, and there's the point when Ken Russell makes the devils, and it's released, and everybody's talking about it, and everybody's writing about it. But then you get past that, and then it just exists. And from here on in, you live in a world where the devils already exist,
right.
And then people take it and accept it or reject it or whatever.
Absolutely, and that's what will happen here. Quentin, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Pleasure to see you.
I look forward to this. Thanks a bunch.
Thanks. All right, thanks everybody.
No worries.
Thank you.
Watch the microphone, please.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, take it.
Switch you want that back.
There you go.
The coolest socks in Canada. Oh.
Yeah, what can I tell you? Thanks a lot. Have fun tonight at the.
Oh, I sure will.
The crowd's going to go crazy for this.
There you go.
All right, thanks a
I will
lot.
be there.
Have a good one.
Did you have a favorite scene in the movie?
The Ku Klux Klan scene, the hood
Oh,
scene,
yeah.
is mind-blowing.
Oh.
So mind-blowing. And I thought, there's no way that this is going to play itself out in the way it's playing itself out.
Yeah.
And I loved it. And the most meta moment in the movie is when new Django, I call him dueling Django.
Yeah, right, exactly.
And when he says, I know.
Yeah, I know. That was great.
It blew my mind.
Thanks a lot, man.
Hey, man. I'll see you.